From the far reaches of the Milky Way galaxy, it's Retro Nerd Girl with a spoiler-free film review for you. Today, I'll be reviewing the movie Disturbing Behavior, released in 1998. Starring James Marsden, Katie Holmes, and Nick Stahl. Directed by David Nutter. The synopsis is, Steve Clark moves to a new town only to find that the school elite, the Blue Ribbons, are mind-controlled to be higher achievers by the faculty and parents. Eventually, they'll want to transform the entire student body to make them all perfect students. The film reminds me and is often compared to The Faculty, released in the same year but 5 months later. Comparing the two, I would pick The Faculty as the better movie overall because it's far more concise of a story. Sorry for all you Disturbing Behavior fans out there, but this doesn't mean that I don't love the movie. This film actually has a superior concept since the project of brain manipulation, and specifically brain manipulation because your parents think that you need it, is much more reality-based and much more terrifying than an alien parasite invasion. You know, it's definitely got leaves a creepier effect on the viewer after watching. And I think it's a fantastic hypothetical situation. I just love it. The premise is so intriguing. It's the idea of taking someone who is slightly rebellious and getting them to behave, as it were, to your liking. It's a modern take on The Stepford Wives, released in 1975, and A Clockwork Orange, released in 1971, with a maniacal scientist, Dr. Edgar Caldecott, seeking to make the youth of the world more obedient. Even though many of the scenes were entertaining, it just left me with a lot of questions about why characters were doing what they were doing. One of the most unreasonable parts about the film is that the candidates for the procedures aren't necessarily naughty kids. They like rock and roll, they enjoy things outside of academics, and dress the way that they want. They don't always do what their parents prefer them to do or like. But they're not delinquents. They're just simply being themselves. When the students undergo Dr. Caldecott's program, they lose unique behaviors, which express their feelings. They don't express love anymore because they've lost their self-identity. Who are we really if we remove the expressions that make us unique enough to contribute to our homes and communities? The film insists on pushing the fear of having the parents sign their kids up for the program, but we have no context to understand why. All of the adults in the film are portrayed as jerks, pretty much, except for the janitor. I felt that the parents in this film were misled and completely neutered by their lack of understanding. And don't get me wrong, this is completely plausible to an extent. Because, you know, during those teen years, both parents and kids do have a lot of trouble understanding each other. It's hard enough for Steve to fit in at school because he's still adjusting to his brother's suicide. It seems as if his father doesn't really want to even address the situation because he doesn't want to face those feelings himself. His father thinks that Dr. Caldecott's program would be the perfect thing to get Steven to move on. The biggest disconnect for me, and I truly wish that at least a few of the parents could have been more in tune with what was happening to their children. I know that there are some really good parents out there that are paying attention to their kids and want them to be free-spirited and want them to express themselves. You know, unless we're going to be living in a 1984 society where everybody just does what they're told and they're not allowed to even think of any original thoughts. I also thought that it could have been great to see how the students had creative passions before and how it benefited the town or the school, to show us the benefits of a society with people who engage in a wide spectrum of interests. I thought something like that would have been kind of a nice little nugget for us as in a storytelling aspect. And truthfully, the community would be the place that would absorb the biggest impact from people completely abandoning their love for things and, just resorting to being like a drone. I think it would have been an even better idea, and this is just me playing Hollywood writer here. Don't, hold that against me. But I thought it would be really cool if they actually had the kids be seduced and apply for the programs themselves, playing on, our human desires to become higher achievers. Wanting to succeed is something we all want on some level. And I love the idea that it's scary to think that something so basic, such a desire like that, could go so wrong. And that's where this film actually shines. Now, Dr. Caldicott's program would be a moderate success if it didn't inadvertently create delinquents. The students become snobs and more prone to extreme, and I mean extreme violence whenever they're attracted to another person or they have sexual desires. Many of them become flat out murderers, and it's all covered up by the cooperation of the police, and that part is not even explained at all in the film. Like, why are the police covering up murders, like flat out murders? But maybe, just maybe, there was an explanation for all of this action that we see in the film that we don't understand. And the rumor mill reports that the film was actually 30 minutes longer and was cut down to please multiple test audiences. Many of the cut scenes were also lost forever, so I pretty much think that we got robbed of a really great film. I mean, all of the pieces are there if you just look at this film. They're just not fitting together the way it stands at the moment. And this is all really coming from the era of the late 90s, where the teen horror genre really exploded with identical formulas, and nearly every poster was the same. Studios were pumping out these films like crazy, and the intellectual process of the film was kind of muted in order to create this product, if you will. As you would expect in a teen genre film, many of the female characters were used as objects for the male gaze. And I usually don't mind the male gaze, but I really wasn't too crazy about the fact that many of the female characters in the film that were sexualized were often brutally, and I mean brutally, slut-shamed for absolutely no reason whatsoever. And I just was like, it kind of took me back, because I was like, whoa, what's happening here? You're going through all of this detail of showing us, this woman's female form, and then you're going to call her a slut. If you're young enough, if you don't know any better, you would actually get programmed to feel like attractive women are all sluts, and that's really bad. Didn't like that at all about this film. In this particular instant, I think it was poorly done. And maybe they weren't paying attention, but that was something that happened in the film. Now, the action is pretty awesome. I mean, I really enjoyed the action here, and the pacing was really good. Everything really revs up by the second half of the film. But you're not gonna believe this, but there is a scene that was pretty much beat for beat from Total Recall. And to be honest, I didn't hate it. I mean, it's pretty entertaining. Everyone in this movie really sells what's happening, and that's part of the enjoyment here. Nick Stahl was a big standout in the film, delivering fantastic monologues throughout the film. It was a complete joy to watch him in every scene that he's in. He has the task of playing dual roles in the part of Gavin, where he begins the film as an outsider and a rebel thinker, clever enough to discover what's going on, and then he is transformed into a blue ribbon, upholding Dr. Caldicott's ideal to the utmost, even becoming Steve's greatest threat. Bruce Greenwood and William Sadler were fantastic in this, but terribly underutilized. Steve Railsback is in this, but he's unfortunately given really nothing to do but show up in 2 scenes. Like, what? This is not what you do with this kind of talent. Put him in more scenes, write a bigger part for him. Now, James Marsden was a great lead for this film. You know, I always love seeing him on screen, and I find his acting really never fails whatever he's in. He's really underrated, and he's really fantastic. I loved, he sells his part. Katie Holmes was really great in this, and this was actually the first film, or actually the first anything I've ever seen her act in, and I thought she was really good in it, really portraying that like complex girl that's kind of like on the outskirts. She could probably easily fit in if she wanted to, but she's just like, I prefer to be me, you know. Love that character and loved how she portrayed it. And again, even with its massive problems, I really enjoyed this film. It's got a fantastic opening title music, fantastic song at the end credits, okay? That song is amazing. A lot of really great 90s music in this. Great acting, fantastic high concept, great cinematic moments, and, you know, however, the execution could have just been a bit better. My rating is an 8.1. Now that sums up my quick spoiler-free review. This is Retro Nerd Girl signing off. Take care, movie lovers. I'm off to my next review.